Peter is 24-year-old police officer in New York City. He has got slim and strong body. He is both ambitious and a bit unsure. He looks around with a sense of wonder and a feeling of responsibility. His brown hair is neatly combed and his uniform looks really sharp, showing that he worked hard to become the part of police force. When Peter first started working at NYPD, he had a lot of paperwork to deal with. Those everyday tasks that are a part of the job. It was like required introduction before he could really start patrolling the streets. Now, routine patrol work is Peter's thing, and he loved being where the action is, away from the boring office desk. One night, Peter's boss, an experienced officer, called him for a briefing before his night patrol starts. The senior officer leaned on the desk with folders and maps spread out in front of him. "Peter," the senior officer spoke with a rough voice, "tonight you are heading into our dangerous hood. Your task is a regular patrol, but with a twist." Peter nodded, looking at the map and tracing the assigned area with his finger. "Pay extra attention to this spot," the senior officer said, tapping the map with rough finger. "We suspect there might be illegal drug dealings happening at nights. Stay alert, but don't try to be a hero. Call for backup if things gets difficult." Peter took in the instructions. "Got it, sir," he answered, his voice steady even though he was a bit nervous. Older officer looked at him, a moment of friendliness breaking through his serious demeanor. "Peter, you have got what it takes. Just remember, streets can be tough. Trust your instincts and you will come out okay." Peter walked out of police station, feeling the cool air as he stepped into the parking lot. The patrol car was there, waiting for him. He took a deep breath, pushed away the nerves, and got into the driver's seat. Engine roared and the patrol car started moving out of station. Peter gripped the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Peter entered the hood just after 1:30, tires rolling over the cracked roads and throughly dim-lit streets. He knew this area had a bad reputation, a spot known for bus stabbings, hit and runs, and teenage shootings happening regularly. Tonight was Peter's first time patrolling these dangerous streets. Driving down the empty road, flickering street lights created uneven shadows on the worn-out buildings. The air felt heavy with neglect and hopelessness. A stray cat quickly crossed the road, disappearing into the shadows of dark alley. The Peter's hand gripped the steering wheel tighter as he continued driving, his senses on high alert. He carefully listened to the eerie silence, searching for any hint of gang activities. Turning left, Peter drove further into the heart of the neighborhood, following the map directions given by his senior officer. The road eventually led him to a dead end, where an old commercial building stood in the darkness. Broken windows reflected the faint moonlight and graffiti spread on the front wall. Turning off the ignition, Peter stayed inside the car. He carefully examined the building, searching for any sign of movement. After 15 minutes without spotting any unusual activity, Peter decided to continue patrol in other streets. As the patrol car moved away from abandoned building, just 2 blocks down, a cry shattered the night. "Stop!" The voice echoed from the dark alleyway, sounding pleading and desperate. Peter slammed the brakes, bringing the patrol car to a sudden stop. He shifted into reverse, rolling the vehicle back into its position in front of dark alley. The cry had come from somewhere within its depth. A tall and slim African American man came out of darkness, his hands raised, begging for help. He wore a t-shirt and loose jeans. Breathing heavily, he hurried towards Peter, desperation clear on his face. "Help me get out of here," the man pleaded, his voice trembling. "That thing will kill me. We can't stay here for long. Please believe me, officer." Peter focused on the man, evaluating the situation with a blend of caution and concern. Was he on drugs, unstable, or truly in trouble? Peter instinctively raised a hand, signaling for a man to slow down. When man reached a safe distance, Peter, with his mind racing, chose to check him for any possible threat. Convinced the man wasn't a danger, Peter asked, "What are you afraid of? Tell me what happened." The man, known as Frank, rushed through his story with quick breaths and shuddering pauses. He shared that he belonged to a local gang and only an hour ago had gone into that old building with another gang member. Their goal, to complete a drug deal with someone who had just arrived from Mexico. While Frank spoke, a blend of anger and fear appeared on his face. The deal had gone wrong, with disputes over the amount demanded. Frank's gang member, unable to agree on terms, cancelled the deal. The situation took a frightening turn when the man from Mexico started to transform in anger. Frank continued the recounting. That Mexican started to shake, his skin ripping on all places. His face turned into demonic dog-like. Black hair erupted as his torn skin fell away. His hands and legs became hairy, thin with long, sharp claws. Peter listened, his face showing a blend of disbelief and dread. The vivid picture painted by Frank's words sent shivers down his spine. Frank said the transformed creature attacked his gang member with ferocity. Sharp teeth pierced his flesh. Blood spilled onto the cold floor. Frank, stumbling backward in sheer horror, somehow managed to flee through the exit door onto the streets. He sought refuge in the dark alley where the Peter stood now. Upon hearing the incident, Peter was certain of one thing: gangs were involved in illegal activities inside the building. Before alerting his team, he wanted to make sure he is correct. Peter cautiously entered the building. Frank, still muttering the warnings, moved carefully, fear evident on his face. As they moved through the dimly lit corridor, Peter's senses were on high alert. Suddenly, Peter's eyes landed on gruesome scene. Lifeless body lay on the cold ground. The throat was torn open, claw marks etched across the face and chest, painting a horrifying picture of creature's brutality. Smell of blood hung thick in the air. Peter pulled out his gun, scanning the area for any sign of movement. At the end of the corridor, two red eyes gleamed. The creature was slowly moving toward them. Fear gripped Peter's chest, his heart pounding as the creature approached. Without a second thought, he grabbed Frank, urgency in his eyes. As Frank turned, confused, Peter sprinted back toward the exit. They burst out into the open. Peter didn't pause. He guided Frank toward the patrol car with urgency. The night echoed with Peter's and Frank's frantic footsteps as they sprinted toward the patrol car. The relentless growls of pursuing Dogman reverberating through the darkness. Creature was swift, closing in on them. In the nick of time, both men scrambled into the patrol car, Peter in the driving seat and Frank in the back passenger seat. The car door slammed shut just as monstrous Dogman struck, its massive shoulder colliding with the vehicle. The impact jolted the car. Peter, his adrenaline pumping, wasted no time. He urgently radioed for backup, the urgency in his voice palpable. Before he could complete his sentence, the Dogman struck again, a powerful blow that sent the patrol car spiraling into chaos. The vehicle flipped over, leaving the Peter and Frank trapped in the wreckage. The world spun in disarray as both men screamed in pain. Peter felt the searing agony of broken leg and multiple wounds on his head and hands. Darkness threatened to engulf him as he writhed in pain, consciousness slipping away. In the back seat, Frank desperately tried to get outside. His frantic attempts to escape met with looming shadow of Dogman. The creature circled the overturned car, its massive form casting ominous silhouette. Its hand reached through the shattered car window, effortlessly grabbing the Frank's throat and pulling him out. Frank screamed as Dogman's sharp claws dug into his throat. The creature tossed him like ragdog, Frank's body landing on the road. Blood streamed from his battered head, his torn and bloody shirt bearing witness to brutality. Frank lay motionless, limbs unresponsive. The Dogman leaned over him, gazing with sinister rage, and slowly plunged its sharp claws deep into Frank's chest. Blood poured out of Frank's chest and mouth as he died. As the Dogman slowly killed Frank, Peter mustered all his might, kicked the door open, and dragged himself out. Dogman turned his attention toward the wounded Peter. Crawling away, Peter's broken leg proved to be a hindrance. Desperation fueled Peter's every move as he dragged himself away from the advancing beast. Despite his body screaming in agony, inner voice whispered that he couldn't succumb to this fate at the hand of beast. Summoning his last reserve of strength, Peter lowered his right hand to reach for his gun, still holstered in his pant. With a surge of effort, Peter wrestled the gun free. He turned quickly, still lying on the road, catching the Dogman off guard. Seizing the moment, Peter emptied the entire magazine into the broad chest of the Dogman. The creature fell backward, writhing in pain as the bullets tore through its body. Peter, catching a brief respite, exhaled in relief. However, the victory was short-lived as Dogman slowly began to move its limbs, roaring in pain. Red eyes fixed on Peter as the creature rose on his feet. Peter braced himself for the inevitable. As Dogman prepared to take a step forward, a distant sound of police siren cut through the night. Creature hesitated. In that moment of tension, Dogman stared ominously at Peter before turning away. Slowly, it disappeared into the dark alley, leaving Peter lying on the cold pavement, battered and broken, but still alive. In the hospital room, Peter recounted the horrifying incident to his boss and fellow department officers. He did not mention anything about the beast. Peter knew the consequences of even mentioning the word like Dogman. Such a revelation would cast doubt on his mental state, jeopardizing his job and reputation. Instead, he spun a tale of gangs using German Shepherd dog to carry out the gruesome attack before speeding away in the night. The incident was filed away as another gruesome encounter with criminal underbelly of the city. In the months that followed, Peter avoided patrolling that neighborhood alone. The memory of injured Dogman seeking revenge lingered in the shadows.